With Season 13 winding down, let's get you guys set up with a new update on the best champions to climb for every rank. The format of the video will work as follows. We'll be grouping the rank tiers into 3 different elo brackets and give you guys 5 champs for each bracket. The reason we're doing this is because for tiers that are right beside each other like bronze and silver, there's no difference in the champions we would recommend. Therefore, it makes more sense to group certain tiers together. Low elo is the first bracket, and it will consist of iron, bronze, and silver, which make up 47% of the player base. The second bracket will be called mid or medium elo and consist of gold, platinum, and emerald. These 3 tiers also come together to make up 47% of the player base. And the final bracket will be called high elo. This one holds that final 6% of the player base and consists of the ranked tiers: diamond, masters, grandmasters, and challenger. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. So we're going to start off by covering our top 5 low elo picks, and there's really nobody better than Trundle for top lane right now. Not only does Trundle smash lane in a ton of meta matchups, but his mid to late game split push threat is incredibly broken. Trundle top has just recently come back into meta, so a lot of players are still quite unfamiliar with the pick. This means if you can start spamming Trundle right now and learn his early game limits, the ability for you to find those early solo kills are going to be much higher on Trundle than the majority of top lane champs. Split pushing as a win condition in the lower ranks is extremely effective because you rely on nobody but yourself to win games. Players are also a lot less coordinated in low elo, and mid to late game lane assignments will be all over the place, which will in a lot of cases end up with you knocking down a bunch of towers for free. Trundle only needs about 5 to 10 seconds depending on how fed he is to completely destroy a tower in the mid to late game, so if the enemy team even leaves you alone for a split second, your ability to punish is massive. If you really want to master the art of split pushing, we have a complete course on our website that breaks everything down. Core build you'll want to rush on Trundle is a Trinity Force rush into Ravenous Hydra second and Hullbreaker third. Lethal Tempo is the best keystone rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Grab Demolish and Bone Plating for secondaries. A new jungler has stormed into the meta over the past few patches, and our jungle recommendation for low elo is Brand. What makes Brand so effective for the lower ranks is that there is very little variance in how you look to approach the early game. Oftentimes, too much choice is what puts new or inexperienced players in a pickle because they try to force plays that aren't there and end up falling behind. With Brand, you're going to full clear in almost every single game because he can literally kill all his camps in 3 minutes. You'll be level 4 at that 3-minute mark, while the enemy jungler is likely still either level 3 or finishing their full clear. This gives you an advantage either way, because you can fight them if they are still level 3, or look for a gank yourself if they're clearing their jungle. To really increase the skirmish power of Brand, look to run Ghost instead of Flash. Ghost helps a ton with kiting around in fights, weaving in and out as you wait on your cooldowns. Brand is a shorter ranged mage, so having that Ghost to space along with the eventual slow from Rylai's feels super nice. The core build for Brand jungle is a Liandry's Rush into Rylai's second and Zhonya's third. Take Dark Harvest for the keystone rune with Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight are the optimal secondaries. Malzahar is another champion who has a pretty similar approach to every single game, which makes him great for low elo. Mal's level 6 spike is always what you're playing towards on the champion, as his pre-6 is frankly utter garbage. The fact Mal's does not have any kill threat pre-6 is actually not all that bad, because in a way, it forces you to really focus on your farm more so than harassing the enemy. A lot of mid laners in the lower ranks will sacrifice so much farm early on because they are trying to poke the enemy, but with Mal's, you really only have to focus on being consistent with your CS. The only time you should be looking to poke the enemy is when your mana flow band is available. Other than that, trying to secure as much farm as possible prior to hitting level 6 will set you up really well. A spike that comes even earlier than 6 for Mal's is when he's able to complete Lost Chapter. To make completing Lost Chapter even easier, start the game off with Mana Crystal and Refillable Potion instead of a Doran's Ring. Once you complete Lost Chapter, it becomes so much easier contesting waves with Mal's, so this little strategy can really help with that. The core build for Malzahar is a Liandry's Rush into Rylai's second and Demonic Embrace or Zhonya's third. Take Airy for the keystone rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. To hit Lost Chapter at an even quicker pace, you can roll with Futures Market and secondary runes. Every now and then an outlier pops up and begins dominating low elo for ADC, but consistently a top 3 ADC that you can never go wrong with is Misfortune. Regardless of the meta, MF is a phenomenal low elo pick because there's less things you need to focus on compared to other ADCs to see the same amount of success. If you're trying to pick up someone like Vayne in low elo, actually learning the game is going to be much more difficult because you're always going to be so focused on how to mechanically play fights. With Misfortune, there's not as much optimization needed on the mechanical side of things, which allows you to focus on your macro play much more and actually improve as a player. There's improving as a player, and then there's improving at a champion, and when you're playing these higher mechanical champions, you draw a lot of your attention away from improving as a player. The build you should be running on Misfortune consists of a Ghostblade Rush into the Collector second and Axiom Arc third. Pick up First Strike for the Keystone Rune with Magical Footwear, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight. Best secondaries are Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. If you want to climb the fastest from the support role in low elo, you have to stay away from enchanters and lean more towards the mages. Zyra is our recommended support for low elo right now, as she's not only been buffed a bunch of times this season, but her ability to carry has always been very high. With support in low elo, you have to be able to take matters into your own hands to win games, and that's a lot less viable on enchanters. With Zyra though, her ability to find catch plays and then follow up with a ton of burst gives her much more agency over how games play out. You don't even need your ADC to be competent a lot of the time to win with Zyra, as long as you're able to pull your own weight. At level 6, always be trying to dip into the side lane brush, looking for angles to where you can land your E on the enemy. All it takes is for that one E to land, and then you follow with your full combo and either chunk the enemy extremely hard or pick up a kill. Build for Zyra revolves around a Liandry's Rush into Rylai's second and Demonic Embrace or Zanya's third. Comet is the best Keystone Rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Pick up Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter for secondaries. Moving on to our mid-elo champion recommendations, which include the ranks Gold, Platinum, and Emerald. First up for top lane is going to be Ornn. We really like Ornn for this elo bracket because games are still lasting long enough to where you're going to get good value from his passive, while he's a bit more mechanically demanding, which suits him better for mid-elo than low elo. Ornn's win rate actually falls off quite a bit in high elo, and it's likely due to the fact games are much quicker, which means Ornn doesn't get full value from his kit being able to upgrade items. Now, even though Ornn is a tank, he really plays much more like a bruiser tank mix. The damage output that Ornn can deal will make you shake your head at times, so don't write the champion off because he's a tank. Teamfight impact is some of the best for any champion in the game, and it makes Ornn such a consistently reliable pick. Regardless of how the early game plays out, you've always got that great team fight to fall back on, and it just takes one good R to out-impact the enemy top. Core build you should be looking to run on Ornn is the Sunfire Aegis Rush into Radiant Virtue second and a situational tank item third. It's Grasp for the Keystone Rune with Demolish, Second Wind, and Overgrowth, followed by Magical Footwear and Biscuits for secondaries. For our mid-elo jungle recommendation, it's going to be Evelynn. Evelynn fits in really nicely for this bracket because it's still not high enough to where her early game will be consistently punished, but it's low enough that players will constantly disrespect the catch power the champion has. Knowing how to flank and being in the right position is also very important to succeed with Evelynn, whereas with someone like Brand, you can just look for straight up 5v5 fights and win, which makes Eve better suited for mid-elo. If you can be consistent with your full clear, hit level 6 as quick as possible, and begin impacting the map from then on out, you should see great results on Evelynn. Since the champion lacks reliable setup, if you can gank for a lane that has reliable CC, it's going to make picking up kills post 6 extremely easy. If the enemy is already CC'd, it makes following up with your charm super easy and a guaranteed kill with your follow-up burst damage. The core build you want to run on Evelynn is a Rocket Belt Rush into Rabadon second. Make sure you grab an early Dark Seal as well, and if you get to 10 stacks, upgrading to Magi's second before Rabadon's is well worth it. The optimal rune page is Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Pick up Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for secondaries. For the mid-elo mid-lane selection, it's going to be the best AD assassin right now, being Talon. Talon was just buffed in 13.24, and it's pushed him over the top as one of the best solo queue mids. Mid-elo is where Talon can really thrive because he requires more mechanical skill than someone like Mouse, while his roam power is still very effective up until very high elo, where players will respect it more. In high elo, players are also much more likely to be aware of Talon's level 2 all-in strength, but in Gold, Plat, and Emerald, playing around the level 2 spike can be a more consistent win condition. Talon can just straight up win games off of that one good trade at level 2, which makes him very rewarding to learn and execute well. A really strong 3-item core that you can look to run consists of a Ghostblade Rush into Prowler's Claw second and Axiom Arc third. There's honestly 3 Keystone Runes that are viable for Talon right now, but we would recommend siding with Electrocute just so you have more agency in lane. An ADC who fits absolutely perfectly into these ranked tiers of Gold, Platinum, and Emerald right now is Vayne. At this level of play, mechanics are actually not all that bad in this day and age of League. If this were back a few seasons ago, Vayne would probably be a high elo only recommendation in this kind of video, but the average mechanical skill of a Gold, Plat, and Emerald player has increased a ton over the years. Another reason we like Vayne for mid elo instead of high elo is because the early game is not nearly as important. In high elo, oftentimes games can just be won or lost in the first few minutes, which makes Vayne more risky since she does need a bit of time to ramp up. Mid elo is that sweet spot for Vayne to really succeed, and the stats don't lie either, as Vayne has the highest win rate in Platinum out of all of the tiers in the game. There's 2 unique builds you can run on Vayne at the moment. First is the Trinity Force setup, with Lethal Tempo as the Keystone Rune. This one will work best for you into comps that have more tanks or bruisers. The alternative setup consists of running Storm Razor, Essence Reaver, and Ghostblade, paired with Fleet Footwork for the Keystone Rune. You're going to excel the most with this setup into squishy comps. This support could honestly be our recommendation for both mid and high elo, but there's another support we like slightly more for high elo right now. So Rakan Rakan slots in as our mid-elo selection. Rakan is a support who relies on his team being on the same page as him in order to see the most success. With a support like Zyra, it really doesn't matter if your ADC is completely lost, but the same can't be said with Rakan. You need at least a semi-competent ADC that will be ready to follow up on your engages, so Rakan works much better for mid and high elo. The worst feeling on Rakan is when you think you found that game-winning catch, but then your team is just nowhere to be seen on the follow-up. As a result, spam pinging is something you'll really need to get used to on Rakan, because oftentimes you'll see an opening that your team may not. As soon as you see that opening, if you start spam pinging and walking forward, it should give them enough time to clue in that you are looking for an engage. Rakan's ability to find those instant catch plays from 2 screens away are what makes him so lethal, but it's being on the same page as your team that can really make or break the champ. Build to run on Rakan is a Radiant Virtue Rush into Zeke's 2nd and Knight's Vow 3rd. Take Guardian for the Keystone rune with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching, followed by Zombie Ward and Ultimate Hunter for secondaries. The best top laner for high elo if piloted optimally is Riven. Just buffed in 13.23, Riven is now back to being a super lethal pick in the right hands. Riven is more mechanically demanding than most top lane champions, which makes her most effective in high elo where players tend to be the most mechanically gifted. Just looking at the data, Riven players in Diamond and above are winning 52% of the time right now, while Riven players in Gold fall off quite hard down to 49%. Riven is one of those champions to where if she gets a lead, it becomes increasingly easy to not only win out in the 1v1, but turn 1v2 scenarios as well. If you're mechanically sound on Riven, you can solo carry games due to the raw amount of consistent damage and mobility the champion has to offer. Optimal core build for most games consists of a Ravenous Hydra Rush into Black Cleaver 2nd and Eclipse 3rd. For the rune page, grab Conqueror with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Nimbus Cloak and Transcendence are the best secondaries. Graves is an extremely powerful jungler for the current meta, but similar to Riven, best suited in high elo, where players can pilot him optimally. After all, Graves is a champion that relies 100% on dealing damage to be useful, so if you're not on point mechanically with him, there are so many easier junglers who can be just as effective. Ever since Ghostblade was buffed a few patches back, it's taken Graves to another level, and it's a big reason to why he's the 2nd most contested jungler, only behind Lee Sin in Diamond and above. The movement speed from Ghostblade coupled with the dash from Graves' E allows him to be so shifty in fights, and he's one of the best skirmishing junglers on that one item spike. The complete core build consists of a Ghostblade Rush into the Collector 2nd and Black Cleaver 3rd. Optimal rune setup revolves around Fleet Footwork, Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Free Boots and Cosmic Insight. Hands down, the best mid lane champion for high elo in 13.24 is Sylas. You can make a case for Orianna, but we like Sylas slightly more due to his stronger playmaking potential and consistent skirmish power. You can really take over games with Sylas once you hit that level 9 and get W fully maxed out. Soaking up experience and getting levels on Sylas are extremely important for him. Not only level 9, but if you can manage to reach level 16, Sylas R drops to a 30-second cooldown before any haste, which is insanely broken for those late game fights. The raw amount of consistent impact that Sylas can have throughout an extended period of time trumps what most mid lane champs are capable of. The core build for Sylas consists of a Night Harvester Rush into Shadowflame 2nd and Zanya's 3rd. Take Electrocute for the Keystone rune with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Transcendence and Scorch are the way to go for secondaries. Just buffed in 13.24 and back to being an exceptionally strong ADC for high elo is Lucian. Lucian E cooldown was buffed at the earlier levels, so it gives him more windows of opportunity to strike. Being a more early game reliant marksman, Lucian is way better suited for high elo, where you can rely on your support more and where games are more snowbally. If you get a lead in lane, Lucian is one of the most consistent ADCs when it comes down to pushing an advantage due to the amount of space he can cover with his E and R. The dash from E and the long range from R makes it so easy for Lucian to punish players that do not respect him. This gives Lucian a lot of agency over how games play out, as he can make plays happen without the need for his support to go in first. The standard 3-item core for Lucian is a Kraken Slayer Rush into Quick Blade 2nd and Essence Reaver 3rd. You want Press the Attack for the Keystone rune with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace. Pick up Magical Footwear and Biscuits for secondaries. The most broken support that you can play for high elo in 13.24 is Janna. Just buffed a few patches back, Janna has shot past all other enchanters in priority. Janna being an enchanter works way better for high elo than low elo, since she needs to rely on her ADC to play off the utility she provides. When you have teammates who you can rely on, Janna can be one of the most impactful supports in the game. Positioning in behind your fed carries and being ready to peel off any engaged threat allows your teammates to play a little more aggressive than they'd usually be able to. Just the fact you're playing Janna lets your team push leads harder and go for these plays that would usually be risky, but are much more guaranteed with a Janna in the game. A new build that is catching on quite a bit in high elo consists of rushing Crown of the Shattered Queen. Crown synergizes quite nicely with the new optimal Keystone rune being Hail of Blades, as Janna is able to play more aggressive herself, looking for catch plays and weaving in those passive autos. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's going to be all for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you back soon.